My name is Pamela Ovadje. I'm a regulatory affairs and quality consultant. My services are focused in the life science industry, so medical device, including software and digital health technologies. And as long as there are people who are coming up with new and great ideas, there will always be regulations that cover those new and great products that come from those ideas. Regulatory affairs is very important as it bridges the gap between advancing innovation and public health safety. So regulatory affairs focuses on consumer health and protection, public health frameworks, environmental considerations and protections, fair competition, and most importantly, it ensures that startup companies are able to advance technology for consumer health and well-being. The key areas that regulatory covers are safety, effectiveness, and quality of the product. But they also cover things like the ethics of the use of your product, the budgeting of your product, standards, mostly international standards or national standards, that ensure that the company is compliant and is able to get to market without additional risk to consumers. There are definitely a lot of differences. So if you've got a pharmaceutical product, the path to a regulated market is very different than a medical device, which is very different from a dietary supplement. The requirements to go to market all focus on the safety and the risks of the product, the effectiveness of the product. So if your product is going to make a claim that it helps a certain population do something, or it treats a certain condition, the regulatory authorities will be looking to make sure that that product is effective for that claim. And it covers the quality of the product. So does the product meet the specifications that were set out at the beginning? You can never be too early when you're planning out your regulatory path to market. My suggestion would be that companies start looking at the regulatory requirements once they've taken their idea from a idea stage to a prototype. Because you really want to incorporate regulatory feedback as early as possible in the development so that you don't have to backtrack once you've gone through the whole development process. Within the University of Calgary environment, the groups I will talk to would probably be a group like Innovate Calgary, because they've got a wide range of programs that they offer. They've got a wide range of expertise in their expert advisor program. So that's a good place to start, because it gives you a lot of options on what the services are, who you should be talking to, because sometimes people don't even know who they should be talking to. Outside of that, I would reach out to Alberta Health Services. They've got some advisors in there that could potentially direct you. A lot of these advisors will direct you to a program like Innovate Calgary. There is the CCCR, so if your focus is clinical trials, that could be a group that would be beneficial because they've got the expertise to guide you through that trial. They could potentially put your applications in with Health Canada, for instance, and they could support your audits of your clinical studies. Another program that you could talk to would be the Ward of 21st Century, W21C. They provide clinical guidance, mostly focused on human factors testing. They could also support your regulatory submissions for clinical trials as well. Some of the most important people you can talk to are independent consultants. These independent consultants are working with these groups that I've mentioned earlier. So they're the ones providing services through those groups. And in some cases, they work independently to provide you with that support. A qualified independent consultant can make the regulatory process less painful, more efficient, and more cost-effective. So some of the challenges that I find with startup companies, especially that have a regulated product, are usually around planning. So they don't plan for incorporating regulatory feedback or requirements into their development. I think education is a big piece of that too. They're not well educated on what regulatory affairs is and why that's important for their product to get to market. They're also broke. So these companies don't have a lot of money, and so they don't want to spend the little money that they have on regulatory and quality because those are abstract concepts in their head. However, it's important to incorporate regulatory requirements early. For example, if you've got a product that is a patch and you put it on the skin and it measures, a biomarker for workout, that's usually not a medical device. But let's say you stick on some needles onto that patch and it breaks the skin, and now it's collecting, interstitial fluid for you to still measure the same thing. That becomes a regulated product. And so your path to market for those two things are very different. But you did not incorporate regulatory feedback early into your development, so now you've ended up creating something that is a higher risk than it maybe needs to be, and now you have to go through a long path to market because your product is now regulated. But what happens if you develop this product with the mindset that it's similar to the patch, and so it's not regulated as a medical device? You put your product on the market and then you get in trouble with the regulators, or you get in trouble because a consumer uses your product and has an adverse reaction, which they will not have with a normal patch. And now you have to pull your product off the market. That's costly. That's time that you've put into developing this product. And you have to go back to the drawing board to figure out how to change your product or how to get your product legally on the market. So it's time consuming, it's cost prohibitive, it is just a general pain if you do not incorporate regulatory early enough.